What happens when the shadows of old Hollywood still whisper through flickering alleyways on your screen tonight? Imagine stepping into a world of cigarette smoke, guilt, and betrayal, where every smile hides a trap. These are the film noir classics restored in digital clarity and released free to watch on YouTube tonight. Some were banned, some forgotten, but all carry the pulse of danger that never fades. Number 15. D.O.A. 1950. Once dismissed as a gimmick thriller, D.O.A. is now hailed as one of the purest expressions of paranoia ever filmed. It opens with a man walking into a police station to report his own murder. He has been poisoned. He has hours left to find out who killed him and why. Every step through Los Angeles and San Francisco becomes a race against decay. The film was shot on a shoestring budget using real streets instead of sets. This gave it an eerie realism. No extras, no glamour, just neon lights and dying hope. When it premiered in 1950, critics were divided. Some called it sensational, others called it genius. But its fatalistic tone frightened censors. The Production Code Office objected to its ending, where the hero dies without redemption. Behind-the-scenes actor Edmund O'Brien pushed himself through sleepless nights to deliver the role's manic energy. His sweating desperation was not makeup. It was exhaustion. For years, the film disappeared into legal limbo after its producers went bankrupt. Then a restored version resurfaced on public domain YouTube archives and became a cult favorite for noir purists. Today, D.O.A. stands as a time capsule of moral rot, where truth comes too late and justice has no pulse. Number 14. The Big Combo, 1955. The Big Combo was everything the Hollywood censors feared in the mid-50s: brutal, ambiguous, and disturbingly sensual, even without breaking a single rule. Director Joseph H. Lewis turned a routine gangster tale into a symphony of darkness. It follows a hard-boiled cop obsessed with bringing down a mob boss whose grip on the city feels almost supernatural. Filmed by legendary cinematographer John Alton, it glows in chiaroscuro light that makes faces look carved from smoke. The violence is stylized yet unnerving. One torture scene nearly caused the film to be banned in Britain for its cruelty. American theaters hesitated too. Some refused to screen it, claiming it glamorized sadism and corruption. The studio buried it for months, then quietly released it to grindhouse circuits. Behind the camera, Lewis clashed with producers who demanded a cleaner cut. He refused, saying noir had to live in sin, or not at all. The result was a film too bleak for the mainstream, but too perfect to die. Over time, critics like Roger Ebert and Martin Scorsese would call The Big Combo a masterpiece of moral decay. Its restored version now lives freely on YouTube, its shadows sharper than ever. The Big Combo does not just show evil, it shows how obsession can make heroes indistinguishable from villains. Number 13. Detour, 1945. Detour is the definition of accidental greatness. Made in 6 days for pocket change, it became one of the most haunting road noirs in history. The story follows a pianist hitchhiking to California to reunite with his fiancée. Along the way, fate hands him a dead man's car, a stolen identity, and a woman more dangerous than any weapon. Shot almost entirely in cramped rooms and rear projections, Detour feels feverish. Every shadow looks alive. Every word sounds like confession. When it premiered in 1945, major studios ignored it. Critics dismissed it as cheap pulp. But its rawness frightened moral watchdogs. They called it indecent for showing a man punished by destiny rather than crime. The production was chaotic. Star Tom Neal's temper was infamous. Director Edgar Ulmer was blacklisted from big studios and worked in exile. Together, they created something unrepeatable. The film vanished for decades until cinephiles rescued and restored it from decaying reels. Today, Detour streams legally on YouTube in stunning quality. Its legacy is that of pure fatalism. No heroes, no villains, just a man trapped in the machinery of fate. Watching it now feels like peering into the subconscious of post-war America, where guilt was permanent and escape impossible. Number 12. Scarlet Street, 1945. Scarlet Street began as an act of rebellion. Director Fritz Lang, who had fled Nazi Germany, wanted to expose the hypocrisy of American morality hidden beneath post-war optimism. The result was one of the darkest films of the decade. It tells the story of a quiet cashier and amateur painter named Christopher Cross who falls for a femme fatale named Kitty. She pretends to love him but secretly schemes with her boyfriend to steal his paintings. What starts as a love affair turns into a descent into murder and madness. The film was banned in several American cities, including New York and Atlanta, for what censors called moral perversion. They hated that the story ended with no redemption, no justice, just guilt echoing in the mind of a broken man. The Production Code Office demanded changes. Lang refused. He released it as he envisioned and paid the price. Behind the scenes, tensions ran high. Actress Joan Bennett and co-star Edward G. Robinson barely spoke off camera. Lang directed with iron precision, forcing take after take until emotions cracked for real. The result was a film that felt too real for audiences of its time. Reviewers condemned it. But decades later, Scarlet Street was rediscovered and declared a masterpiece of psychological noir. Its restored version on YouTube is crisp, haunting, and painful. Each frame feels like a confession whispered to the shadows. Scarlet Street remains a reminder that the true crime of noir is not violence, but illusion, the lie that love can save a lost soul. Number 11. The Hitch-Hiker, 1953. The Hitch-Hiker stands as the only classic film noir directed by a woman in Hollywood's golden age. Ida Lupino shattered convention by crafting a brutal survival story inspired by true events. Two friends on a fishing trip pick up a stranded man on a desert highway. But the stranger is no traveler. He is a murderer who keeps his gun trained on them for days as they drive deeper into Mexico. When it premiered in 1953, audiences were shaken. The film stripped away the glamour of crime thrillers. There were no detectives or dames, only fear and exhaustion. It was banned in several Latin American regions for its portrayal of cross-border violence. American censors almost blocked its release, claiming it glorified cruelty and lacked moral resolution. Lupino faced open hostility from studio executives who doubted a woman could direct a crime film. She fought for every scene she shot on location in blazing desert heat, with minimal crew and no star power. Actors Edmund O'Brien and Frank Lovejoy nearly quit due to the punishing conditions. Yet what emerged was raw tension on film, the sense that humanity itself was eroding under the sun. Today, The Hitch-Hiker is recognized as a landmark. It influenced countless psychological thrillers and road movies. Its restored version on YouTube looks unnervingly modern. Lupino's direction remains fearless, turning endless asphalt and heat into metaphors for isolation and guilt. The film is not about escape, it is about endurance. The silent courage of those who live through fear and learn nothing can ever be the same again. Number 10. The Third Man, 1949. The Third Man is not just a film noir, it is a cultural ghost story. Directed by Carol Reed and written by Graham Greene, it takes place in the ruins of post-war Vienna, where loyalty, friendship, and morality crumble with the buildings. The plot follows Holly Martins, an American writer who arrives to meet his old friend Harry Lime, only to learn that Lime is dead, or so it seems. Shot on real streets torn apart by war, the film used tilted camera angles and haunting zither music to make viewers feel off balance. Its production was legendary. Actor Orson Welles refused to appear for several days, forcing Reed to use doubles for his shadow scenes. When Wells finally arrived, he improvised his famous line about the cuckoo clock, a speech that rewrote film history. At the time, some British censors wanted to alter the ending. They claimed it was too bleak. The heroine walking past the hero without a glance was considered unpatriotic and unromantic. Reed insisted the scene remain. It did, and audiences left the theater in silence. The Third Man became an instant hit in Europe, but faced backlash in America for its cynicism. Studios wanted happy endings, not moral ambiguity. It vanished from broadcast rotation for years until restored prints reintroduced it to new generations. Watching it now on YouTube in full clarity feels like stepping into a fever dream of betrayal and decay. It reminds us that even the noblest ideals rot when profit replaces principle. The Third Man is the echo of a civilization trying to remember what honesty once felt like. Number 9. The Asphalt Jungle, 1950. The Asphalt Jungle begins where most crime stories end. It follows the criminals before the crime. A jewel heist so meticulously planned, it feels destined to succeed. But in true noir fashion, fate has other plans. Directed by John Huston, this was the film that redefined heist cinema, turning the focus from action to the fragile psychology of thieves bound by greed and weakness. When it premiered in 1950, the public was mesmerized and unsettled. The criminals were human. Their desires and failures felt uncomfortably familiar. American censors hated it. They accused Huston of glorifying crime and demanded edits to soften the ending. Huston refused. He believed noir's purpose was to show morality's collapse, not disguise it. Some theaters banned the movie altogether. Behind the scenes, the production was just as intense. Sterling Hayden delivered a performance so raw that Huston called it terrifyingly honest. Marilyn Monroe, in one of her earliest roles, drew attention for her quiet vulnerability. Studio executives wanted her scenes shortened, fearing her presence distracted from the plot. Huston ignored them. The tension between art and control shaped every reel of film. The Asphalt Jungle became a cult success, inspiring decades of heist dramas from Riffraff to Reservoir Dogs. It was restored after years of legal disputes and is now freely available on YouTube in crystal clarity. Watching it today feels prophetic. Every plan collapses. Every dream betrays its maker. In noir, there is no getaway car. Only the long, slow drive toward ruin. Number 8. Out of the Past, 1947. Out of the Past is the perfect noir storm. Betrayal, romance, death, all woven into a memory that refuses to fade. Directed by Jacques Tourneur, it stars Robert Mitchum as a man who tries to escape his criminal past only to be pulled back into it by the woman who once destroyed him. The result is a film drenched in fatal beauty. When it premiered in 1947, it was not a blockbuster. Critics admired its style, but found its plot too complex. Censors objected to its moral ambiguity. No one in the film is innocent, not even the victims. Rumors spread that some studio heads considered cutting the ending where everyone loses. Tourneur fought to keep it intact. He said noir was not about victory, but inevitability. Behind the camera, the atmosphere was heavy. Mitchum improvised many of his lines and smoked so constantly the set reeked of tobacco and tension. Jane Greer, who played Kathy the femme fatale, suffered exhaustion after being pushed to reshoot emotional scenes for realism. But it paid off. Her cold beauty and quiet malice became the standard for every noir siren after her. For years, the film vanished from circulation due to copyright issues. Then, a restored version emerged online. Its shadows now sharper, its dialogue colder. On YouTube, it feels ageless. Out of the Past shows that no matter how far we run, our history waits behind us, ready to reclaim the pieces we thought were buried. Number 7. The Killers, 1946. The Killers opens with one of the boldest beginnings in movie history. Two hitmen enter a small-town diner and ask for a man who knows he is about to die. He does nothing to escape. What follows is not a murder story, but an autopsy of fate. Based on Ernest Hemingway's short story, the film was a critical hit and a scandal at once. Directed by Robert Siodmak, it was one of the first noirs to explore violence as destiny. The structure moves backward, uncovering betrayal after betrayal, until nothing remains but guilt. When it premiered in 1946, American censors nearly banned it for excessive brutality. The Production Code Office objected to its hopelessness, calling it immoral. Yet audiences flocked to it precisely for that reason. Behind the scenes, Burt Lancaster, in his debut role, was terrified. He had never acted before and thought he would be replaced. Ava Gardner's performance as the manipulative femme fatale mesmerized everyone on set. Siodmak clashed with studio executives who tried to add a moral epilogue. He refused. The ending remained bleak. The killers won awards in Europe but disappeared from American TV for decades due to rights disputes. Its restored version now lives freely online. Watching it feels like reading a confession written in shadow and blood. It is not a story about death. It is about surrender, the quiet acceptance that every decision has already sealed its consequence. Number 6. Night and the City. 1950. Night in the City is not just a film noir, it is a howl of desperation carved in silver and smoke. Directed by Jules Dassin after his exile from Hollywood during the Blacklist era, the film captures London's underbelly at its most poisonous. It follows Harry Fabian, played by Richard Widmark, a small-time hustler who dreams of becoming a big-time wrestling promoter. Every move he makes drags him deeper into betrayal until the city itself seems to turn against him. When it premiered in 1950, American critics were stunned by its savagery. There was no glamour, no redemption, only struggle. British authorities were uneasy about its depiction of London as a pit of corruption. Censors forced edits for certain markets, removing scenes they deemed too nihilistic. The studio even shot an alternate ending for the U.S. release to make it slightly more hopeful, a decision Dassin despised. Behind the camera, chaos ruled. Dassin, already under FBI surveillance, worked under enormous stress, hiding his name in production paperwork to avoid blacklisting interference. Widmark threw himself into the role so violently he injured his hand, smashing furniture during a key scene. Actress Jean Tierney, struggling with depression, nearly quit mid-production, but Dassin's empathy kept her grounded. The rawness of their performances bled through every frame. For years, Night and the City vanished from circulation. Its rights were tangled in studio disputes and political paranoia. Then film historians restored the original British cut, darker, sharper, merciless. It now streams freely on YouTube in haunting quality. Watching it today feels like stepping into a nightmare that never ends. It is not about crime or justice. It is about the cruelty of ambition and the city that devours those who dare to dream inside its fog. Number 5. Kiss Me Deadly, 1955. Kiss Me Deadly exploded onto screens like a grenade. Directed by Robert Aldrich, it redefined noir as apocalyptic paranoia. The story follows Private Eye Mike Hammer, whose chance encounter with a terrified woman leads him into a labyrinth of murder, nuclear secrets, and moral decay. By its final act, the film feels less like a thriller and more like an atomic prophecy. When it premiered in 1955, the film caused outrage. The Production Code Office tried to block it for excessive violence and amorality. One Catholic Legion of Decency member called it the most unchristian film ever made. Some theaters banned it outright. Aldrich was forced to recut the ending for American distribution, removing a scene where the world literally burns in nuclear fire. The original ending was considered too horrifying for Cold War audiences. Behind the scenes, Aldrich clashed with lead actor Ralph Meeker over the character's brutality. Meeker portrayed Mike Hammer not as a hero, but as a thug in a suit. The studio panicked. They wanted a tough detective, not a sociopath. Aldrich refused to compromise. The film's nihilism became its signature. Actress Cloris Leachman made her debut in the haunting opening sequence, running barefoot down a highway draped in nothing but terror. For decades, Kiss Me Deadly existed only in censored prints. Then archivists uncovered Aldrich's full cut and restored its explosive finale. It now streams legally on YouTube, glowing with radioactive dread. Watching it today is like staring into the soul of Cold War America, paranoid, violent, and beautiful in its doom. Kiss Me Deadly reminds us that noir's darkest secret was never crime. It was humanity's appetite for destruction. Number 4. Gun Crazy, 1949. Gun Crazy began as a modest crime picture, but evolved into one of the most hypnotic films ever made. Directed by Joseph H. Lewis, it tells the story of a shy marksman named Bart and his reckless partner Laurie, whose shared obsession with guns turns their love story into a spree of robbery and death. Unlike other noirs, it plays like a doomed romance written in bullets. Upon release in 1949, censors attacked it from every direction. The Production Code Office protested its erotic violence and immoral tone. Several state boards banned it completely. Even critics condemned it for glorifying criminals unaware that it was actually condemning obsession itself. The film's visual language was ahead of its time, with handheld shots, long takes, and a breathtaking real-time robbery sequence filmed from inside a moving car without cuts. Behind the scenes, the chaos was barely controlled. The low budget forced the crew to steal shots on real streets without permits. Actress Peggy Cummins delivered her most dangerous performance, handling live weapons with precision while hiding her fear. John Dahl's nervous energy made his portrayal heartbreakingly human, a man who knows he is doomed but cannot stop. Gun Crazy disappeared after its studio went bankrupt, buried in archives for decades. Critics rediscovered it in the 1970s and hailed it as a masterpiece of kinetic noir. Its restored version on YouTube is dazzling raw and feverish. Watching it today, it feels shockingly modern, a precursor to Bonnie and Clyde and Natural-Born Killers. The film captures the insanity of love fused with violence, proving that noir's most dangerous weapon was never the gun. It was desire itself. Number 3. Double Indemnity, 1944. Double Indemnity is the film that defined the noir universe. Directed by Billy Wilder and written with Raymond Chandler, it dared to show that evil could look elegant and sound like poetry. The story follows an insurance salesman who conspires with a married woman to murder her husband for money. Every glance, every whisper drips with guilt and temptation. When it premiered in 1944, it was explosive. The Hays Code almost blocked its release, claiming it glorified adultery and murder. Studio executives panicked over the ending, where both killers meet their doom, but Wilder refused to alter it. The public responded with shock and fascination. Critics called it dangerous yet unforgettable. Some theaters refused to play it, citing moral corruption. Others sold out for weeks. Behind the scenes, tension burned hotter than the lights. Barbara Stanwyck feared audiences would hate her for playing such a ruthless woman. Fred MacMurray, known for clean-cut roles, struggled to channel the deceitful charm Wilder demanded. Chandler and Wilder despised each other, yet their friction created dialogue sharp enough to cut glass. Decades later, Double Indemnity was restored and released into the public domain, where it now thrives on YouTube in beautiful clarity. Watching it today feels like eavesdropping on sin itself. The shadows seem alive, the smoke seems eternal. It is the film that proved crime could be art and desire could be fatal. In noir, there are no heroes, only accomplices. Number 2. The Maltese Falcon, 1941. The Maltese Falcon was the spark that ignited film noir. Directed by John Huston, it transformed a detective story into an allegory of greed and corruption. Humphrey, Bogart's Sam Spade became the blueprint for every hard-boiled anti-hero that followed. The plot revolves around a priceless statue, a string of murders, and a web of lies where everyone wants the same thing, but no one can be trusted. When it debuted in 1941, it was shocking in tone and texture. Audiences were not used to heroes who lied and manipulated. The censors objected to its violence and moral ambiguity. Huston fought for every frame against pressure to soften the story. Some countries banned it entirely, calling it too cynical for wartime viewers. Behind the camera, Bogart and Mary Astor brought heat and danger to their scenes. Huston insisted on shooting in chronological order, a rare move that deepened the tension. Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet's performances turned side characters into legends. The studio doubted it would work, yet the finished film became a sensation. Critics hailed it as a revolution in tone and storytelling. Today, the restored version streams freely on YouTube. Its dialogue still crackles. Its atmosphere still suffocates. The Maltese Falcon reminds us that noir was born from a single truth: every treasure has a curse, and every man who seeks it pays in blood. Number 1. The Lady from Shanghai, 1947. The Lady from Shanghai remains the most hypnotic and misunderstood noir ever made. Directed by Orson Welles, it is a dream collapsing into madness. Welles cast his real-life wife, Rita Hayworth, against type as a femme fatale whose beauty hides a deadly trap. The story follows a sailor lured into a web of deceit, murder, and illusion that ends in one of cinema's most surreal finales. When it premiered in 1947, audiences were bewildered. Welles had chopped narrative logic into fragments and filled the screen with warped angles and reflections. The studio panicked, cutting over an hour from his original version and altering the ending. Critics called it incoherent. Religious groups protested its immorality. Hayworth's transformation from America's sweetheart to an icy killer scandalized her fans. Behind the scenes, the production was chaos. Welles and Hayworth's marriage was collapsing. The cast worked with minimal direction as Welles rewrote scenes daily. The famous Hall of Mirrors climax nearly ended in disaster when live ammunition shattered real glass on set. Decades later, the full scope of his vision would be restored. Now, streaming freely in legal restoration on YouTube, The Lady from Shanghai glows like a fevered dream from a broken genius. It is the purest distillation of noir, beautiful, chaotic, and unforgiving. Watching it today feels like walking into a reflection that will not let you leave. 15. Noir treasures once buried by censorship and decay now live again online, free to haunt a new generation. Each one whispers of guilt and human weakness still echoing through time. Which of these shadows will you step into? First, which story will pull you under? Like and subscribe for more forgotten masterpieces reborn from the dark.